Now let's talk about the 6 that I'm going to select that I think could make the roster in 2021. Well, I guess you've got a couple of locks here, but you've got one for certain lock. And that is, of course, Demario Davis. Demario's not going anywhere. He's a leader of your unit. He's one of the leaders on your defense, too. The New Orleans Saints have done a great job retaining leaders at all 3 positions. You're not going to see, Cam Jordan going anywhere before the season, Demario Davis or Marcus Williams. Those guys are the leaders at each of your units, at each level of the defense. He plays such a pivotal role played such a pivotal role to the turnaround of the New Orleans Saints defense to begin with when he arrived just a few years ago, and has continued to play a pivotal role in these young guys coming up, the defense really getting into sync, and of course the role that he's played in the community as well. So Demario Davis not going anywhere. He is absolutely your starter. Wherever he is, they'll build the rest of the linebacker unit around him. If he's at will, they figure out who's the Mike. If he's at Mike, they figure out who's the Will. And then you'll see a Sam linebacker or a strong side linebacker every now and then in this defense. You don't see it very often. Usually this is a 4-2-5 defense, more commonly known as, of course, your nickel set, which has essentially become base for the New Orleans Saints. The second linebacker that I'm going to select here is Pete Werner. I think he's your other lock. And Zack Baun. I think those are really your 3 locks, right? I mean, these are the 2 guys that you've invested in the draft over the last 2 seasons. You're not just going to all of a sudden not have them on the roster. They invested a 2nd round selection in Pete Werner. They were willing to invest the 1st, but ended up only having to invest the 3rd in Zack Baun, and they're working on developing him and changing his position. I think we see Pete Werner starting opposite Demario Davis unless something surprising happens. I just think that the transition for Zack Baun is really now beginning in earnest. And so because of that, I think it's going to take a little bit of time. But Pete Werner is somebody who's played that will linebacker role. Yes, the responsibilities were different in terms of what he did at Ohio State and what he'll be asked to do in New Orleans. But if you have him there and you have Demario Davis at Mike, or even vice versa, because you've seen Pete Werner play multiple positions on the linebacker unit and along the linebacker spot, I think you're going to feel pretty good about what you have there, especially as somebody that is not going to cause you any massive errors when it comes to Pete Werner. He can help you win games. He's not going to lose you games by playing poorly. He's good at everything that he does. He's not great at any one thing, but he's somebody that is going to be a long time starting linebacker in the NFL and is probably the most pro-ready of the draft picks that the New Orleans Saints spent in the 2021 NFL draft. Zack Baun, again, you're working on making the big change for him. You're taking him from a pass rusher to an off-ball linebacker. He's a lock for me. He's going to be on this roster because the New Orleans Saints are going to continue to work with him. This is really the first year for him. I mean, I know he played for the New Orleans Saints a bit last year, but they had him at a position that they weren't really interested in. I don't want to say interested in working him out at, but that's not what they wanted to do with him, right? They wanted to turn him into an off-ball will linebacker. And even Mike is something that we heard a few times as well. So this really begins the process for Zack Baun here in 2021. And then the final 3 remaining names to fill out the 6 linebackers here: Chase Hansen, Caden Ellis, Andrew Dowell. Those are the 3 that I think you fill out your roster with. Chase Hansen does a little bit of everything. He can cover, he can rush the passer, he can play for you at the 2nd level, he can get involved in the run game, and he's a good special teamer. He's just got a big motor, honestly, and it's something that the New Orleans Saints very much like. And of course, his position versatility is something that I think would keep him around. They like him a lot, and I think that he'll stick around and be on the active roster again here in 2021. Same thing for Caden Ellis. They like all the different things that he can do with them. I mean, the guy even played 3-tech at one point while he was at Idaho, played triple option quarterback during his high school years. The guy can do just about anything. And again, I think he's going to become your core special teamer from the linebacker position, just like Craig Robinson was. Again, I don't know that he gets special teams captain or anything like that, but those snaps have to go somewhere, right? The percentage of snaps that Craig Robinson played on special teams need to go somewhere. I think they go to Caden Ellis. And then Andrew Dowell is one of the surprises. I mentioned that I was going to tell you 2 surprise names to keep an eye out on at this position. I'll say Andrew Dowell is very much one of those guys. Again, his ability to be able to play that star role while he was at Michigan State. This is another linebacker that the Saints like, and he does the thing that the Saints like the most at the linebacker position. He can cover, and that's something that they definitely value at that spot. And so I think that maybe he's one of those guys that comes in and is somebody that can contribute in special teams for you. He did so during his freshman and sophomore seasons before transitioning to a full-time starter his junior and sophomore years with the Spartans. Now you get an opportunity to maybe plug him in as a special teamer, but also have him as somebody that you can use on an emergency basis if you need another linebacker due to injuries or anything of the like. So it's actually pretty easy at this point, again, early before training camp has begun, to see him be maybe the New Orleans Saints' sixth linebacker to keep an eye out on. The second surprise name that I would watch out for is Quan Alexander. I mean, look, I don't see the Saints re-signing Quan Alexander. That's why it would be a big surprise to me to watch out for. I know a lot of folks are getting excited about what they've seen from him working with Dr. Sharif Tabah, who's also worked with guys like Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara as a part of his rehabilitation and everything. But Quan Alexander is still in the midst of his rehabilitation process. So before we get too excited about workout videos and things like that, we have to understand what the purpose of those workouts are. He's in the midst of rehabbing. So I don't think that he's even eligible to be signed at this time. He could be somebody that the Saints fall back on should they need an extra body, injury, something unforeseen. But as of right now, I don't know that the Saints go out and grab him because they've invested so much at that linebacker position. This is a point that Nick Underhill makes all the time as well, that we've seen on Twitter and, in his pieces, that the Saints just invested highly in the draft at the linebacker spot. So bringing in somebody to automatically jump up in front of them just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But if they're in desperation mode and they need somebody, and Quan Alexander is still in the season, still on the market at any point during the season or even ahead of the season, then maybe that could work out, but it would be a big surprise to me, but still a name to watch out for. So those are the 6 linebackers that I think could make the roster for the New Orleans Saints here before training camp. We'll see how training camp, of course, affects all of that, and we get to see these players actually get out on the field and compete for their roles. But if you feel differently, make sure you let me know by hitting me up on Twitter at RossJacksonNola, Nola, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can drop them down in the comment section below as well.